ABC, greetings again from Montreal. Right now, we are currently listening to, on CD, The Studs, Alan Smithy. This is a band from Japan, from Tokyo, I believe, that's made up of members from the band Deadman and the band Kaguru. Really interesting, like, kind of mopey, alternative, Visual K influenced Japanese rock. So I figured we start things off in a really eclectic direction, because that's what I've been collecting in the past month is an eclectic mix of records. Starting with some music that some of you actually might know, we have the Music Matters pressing of Dexter Gordon's Go. I've been looking for this for a while, and I saw it in my local record store this weekend, so I picked it up. This is the 33 RPM version. I have Our Man in Paris, which is another big Blue Note Dexter Gordon record, and I know this is the one he's really known for, so I of course gotta get this too, because I really enjoyed Our Man in Paris. It has a really, really great version of Night in Tunisia on it. So I'm excited to listen to this. I don't think I'm going to listen to it until I get back home to Texas, because that's where the really good stereo is, and I want to hear it on the nice stereo first, so I have a good impression of the album. Another Music Matters Blue Note record. We have Sonny Clark, Cool Struttin'. You know, I listened to this like once online, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a time capsule of a certain aesthetic and a certain style of jazz that, of course, Blue Note was a pioneer of. And of course, the album cover is just, I mean, look at that album cover. It's iconic. Imagine this coming out in 1958. It must have really ruffled some feathers. Again, 33 RPM, Music Matters pressing. I'm trying to get as many of these I can before they're gone. These all sound so incredible, and they're just, you know, Blue Note's the cornerstone of any jazz collection, so I want to get them while I can. Every single one I've listened to is amazing and definitely worth the cost. Moving on to some rock music, we have the first Yardbirds album, 5 Live Yardbirds. This is a early 80s Japanese pressing, pretty good sound quality of what's not really an audiophile recording to begin with. This is, you know, a mix of live recordings. Or no, it's one live recording from early in the Yardbirds' career, you know, before they even had most of their hits. But it just shows really good early British rock and roll. And I'm happy to finally own a copy of this at all. I didn't have any Yardbirds before, so this is my first Yardbirds purchase. I hope to get some more, because I'm starting to really get into them. In the same style of music, we have this is actually from the same series of Japanese reissues, an album, Eric Burdon and the Animals, but I haven't been able to find much about this album. I saw it, and when I saw it in the record store, I assumed it was one of their studio albums. It's not. I can't find anything about this album with this cover and this track listing. It's, if you can see, it's Let It Rock, Gotta Find My Baby, and Bo Deadly on the first side. And, you know, when they say Eric Burdon and the Animals, usually that title is given to the later version of the Animals that was kind of a different kind of music and didn't have the original members. But I think this is the original Animals, and this is older stuff from the early 60s. I think of all the Japanese characters on here, it says something about 1963. But this isn't on Discogs. This pressing isn't on Discogs, and I haven't been able to find this record at all on Discogs with this cover, this track listing. So if anyone knows anything about what this could be, I'd be really interested to hear it, because I mean, it's probably a collection of Animals tracks, but I'm in the dark, and I haven't given this a listen yet, because up until a few days ago I was very busy with you know, final essays and my recital, which is finally over, thank God. So I'll give it a listen and see. Another Animals record. This is Abco's reissue, The Best of the Animals. It's on clear vinyl. And, you know, the Abco reissues, the only ones I have are the Rolling Stones reissues from their Decca era, and they sound really good. I know they're sourced from High Res Digital, but man, they sound better than, I have a couple U.S. original Rolling Stones pressings on the Decca, London Decca label, and my Abco reissues sound better, even though they're digital. And I know they probably don't sound as good as the original UK pressings, but the original UK pressings are really damn expensive. The same goes for this. It's impossible to find an original pressing that's in good shape without spending a fortune. So, you know, for $20 Canadian, can't go wrong with this. and it has their hits on it, and the Animals hits were actually hits. They weren't focused on creating big albums like some of the later rock bands. The Beatles kind of pioneered the idea of an album is a body of art, whereas at this period they were still just making tracks, and then the record companies were putting them together into albums. So I don't feel as bad about owning a greatest hits album of a band like this. Normally I stay away from greatest hits albums, but before the album was really an artistic concept, I think greatest hits albums are acceptable. At least that's the excuse I'm using in my head. Another 60s band. This is from 1969, the MC5, Kick Out the Jams. This album is crazy. This is a Rhino reissue, supposedly cut from the original Analog Master tapes. I don't know that for sure because it's Rhino and that's not always their thing. But it said that on the packaging, so I'm going to take them at their word and assume this is an analog reissue. And usually Rhino's pretty good. Never been too disappointed with a Rhino reissue, although they can sound better. If you don't believe me, go listen to the Rhino reissue of the Doors albums, and then listen to the Analog Productions reissues of the Doors albums. It's a pretty big difference with what can be done with the records. So, but until Analog Productions reissues the MC5, I'm gonna be happy with my Rhino copy. This band is wild, man. They were like, to me, they're like the Stooges meets Deep Purple. They were kind of proto-punk, but they were also this crazy, rock star, wild, blues riffs and all that. So it was a very interesting band, and their first album is probably their most breakthrough. I haven't listened to this yet. I really hope this isn't the censored version. I really hope this is the uncensored one, because they were also very profane, which is really crazy for the time. Moving on, I got a Japanese pressing of the Moody Blues on Threshold of a Dream. This is in 1969, I believe. This is probably the last Moody Blues album I'll pick up. I've been collecting the Japanese pressings of the Moody Blues just because my American pressings sound like garbage. So I'm happy to have a quiet one that sounds really good of this album. And I think when I get home, I'm gonna sell all my U.S. pressings of them because they just don't sound very good. They're all noisy, pressed on noisy vinyl, and the mastering doesn't sound that great. I think these Japanese pressings actually sound better. I'm sure the British pressings sound the best, but again, money, not worth it to me. Oh, another Japanese pressing. This is a EMI Toshiba pressing of the Rolling Stones' Black and Blue. This is one of the Rolling Stones' later albums in the mid-late 70s. I think this is from I think 77, 76, around that time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it came out before Some Girls, and to me, Some Girls is the best, is the last really good Stones album. This one's also pretty good. It's not their great. It's not Exile on Main Street. It's not Sticky Fingers, but this has some good songs on it. And I'm always on the lookout for these Toshiba EMI Rolling Stones ESS pressings, because I have the Toshiba EMI pressing of Sticky Fingers, and it's one of the best sounding Stones albums I own. It even sounds better than my original US pressing, and I know people really like the US pressing. Actually, both sound better than my Mobile Fidelity pressing, but that's because that was one of the worst Mobile Fidelity pressings, I think, is the Mobile Fidelity Sticky Fingers. It's not a great one. Moving on. I think this is a really solid Stones album, and it sounds really good. So if you can find these Toshiba EMI, the catalog number starts with ESS. Everything from Sticky Fingers on through all the records and albums that they put out on the Rolling Stones' own label, Toshiba EMI did pressings of, and they sound phenomenal. Some of the big ones can get expensive. I know the Sticky Fingers pressing can get expensive. It's about $100 if you can find that. This was much cheaper, obviously, because it's not as sought after an album. But I'm happy I got it because it filled in a hole in the collection, and it's a great Stones album. Stones are one of my favorite bands. It's a musical taste that I picked up from my mother, who was a huge Rolling Stones fan. So, yeah, Stones Black and Blue. I'm happy to add it to the collection. Moving on to more modern music, you have the Get Up Kids, 4 Minute Mile. This is one of my favorite 90s emo pop punk albums. If you ever wonder what people mean when they say 90s emo, this is a really good indicator of it. It's just this very, very youthful, open-hearted kind of punk album. It's like punk with introspection and punk with emotional vulnerability. That's what the 90s punk movement was all about. You know, bands like Saves the Day and Sunny Day Real Estate and stuff like that. The Get Up Kids were just as important, and this is one of the seminal emo albums of the 90s. For me, I like a lot of the Get Up Kids albums, but this is probably my favorite. I think it's their best album. It's their first. And most people would tend to agree. This is just a really, really fantastic example of the genre, and it gets me every time I listen to it. And this is a recent pressing, and I just wanted to show you. It's on white with blue splatter. It's really cool pressing. So I'm excited to finally own this. This has been in my want list for a while. Moving in a much heavier direction, I finally picked up a vinyl copy of the Dillinger Escape Plan Calculating Infinity, which I had on CD for a very long time. This album, if you've never listened to the Dillinger Escape Plan, I suggest you go do it and listen to this album in particular. It is the wildest ride in music I think you can ever take. It's just pure adrenaline. It's kind of a cross between metal, hardcore, and math rock. It can really, it's pure chaos, but it's chaos that contains a surprising amount of musicianship and skill, instrumental skill. This is not just people in their parents' basement making noise. I mean, this is highly trained and talented musicians making the most abrasive music you've ever listened to. I first got turned on to Dillinger Escape Plan. I heard this album when I was a camper at Interlochen Arts Camp in 2009 now. That was a while ago. And my cabin counselor that summer he was kind of a metalhead, and he turned me onto a lot of metal. And there was another kid in the cabin, Ben, who played trumpet, who turned me onto a lot of heavier hardcore. Because at that point, I was listening to heavier music. I was listening to a lot of post-hardcore, but I wasn't really. I was still not into music I couldn't listen to bands that were only screaming. I was listening to a lot of music that had screaming in it and harsh vocals in it, but I wasn't yet committed to listening to music that was only harsh vocals. To me, that still sounded too abrasive. And that summer at Interlochen, I kind of got it, and I kind of learned to appreciate this music by these guys showing it to me. And so, that was the summer. My cabin counselor got me into Between the Buried and Me and Black Dahlia Murder, and a lot of really great progressive metal. And Ben was more into hardcore, and he got me into Dillinger Escape Plan. I remember him showing me this on his iPod and listening to it. And I listened to the first song, which is Sugar Coated Sour. It was over, and I took the headphones off, and I went, oh, so that's what cocaine's made for. I mean, it was just full throttle. I don't think I've ever heard anything that had that kind of impact on me since. It was just boom, like a punch in the face. But really good, and I understood that it wasn't just noise, but this band had a huge impact on me. And I've seen them live a couple times since then. They're one of the best live bands out there. They've made a ton of good albums, but this is their first album. It was the most revolutionary, and I think it's still their best. So if you've never heard of this band, definitely go listen to it. You might think it's noise at first, but I dare you to listen a little longer, because these guys are really good. The last thing I picked up, this is a split 10-inch I got at my local record store from the French hardcore band Birds in Row. Birds in Row, again, hardcore band from France. They kind of play an emotionally, almost some would say screamo tinged hardcore punk. They kind of remind me of bands like American Nightmare, also known as Give Up the Ghost, and some bands like that, where it's essentially hardcore, but the lyrics and some of the guitar chords lead to a more introspective and emotionally vulnerable aesthetic. It borderlines on being screamo, but it's not quite screamo. It's still definitely hardcore. And I really like them. I have their two full length. I have their one full length album and the EP they just put out, and I've been looking to get more of their stuff. This is a split with a band called WAITC. I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce it like Waitik or if you're supposed to say the whole thing. I've never heard of this band before, but I listened to their side of the record and it's pretty good. It's not as good as the Birds and Row side though. So yeah, Birds and Row are really great. They're still making music now. They've only been around for the past 5 years, so go check them out. I'm sure they're gonna tour the States soon. I'd really love to go see them at some point because I haven't yet. And that's it, VC. That's what I've been collecting in the past month. The next time I make a video, I'm probably going to be shooting it from back home in my family's home in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to get to show you our stereo back there and take you through all the stuff there and my music collection there. And there's probably some records waiting for me that I haven't opened yet back home. So I'll do a big update video from there. But in the meantime, keep enjoying music, and I'll see you soon, VC. Cheers.